How do I 31F tell my close friend 35F that her adult-only parties are offending people? First of all, I would love a real adult-only party where adults can talk and have conversations without kids interfering. She ain't doing that. She is having a whole party for everyone to focus on her kids only. I need to know how to address this with her. This happened 2 times so far. The first time, we pretty much all assumed that she had to have planned for childcare that must have backed out or something. But since we weren't sure, we didn't ask her. I think everyone felt awkward believing they were paying babysitters for an adult night and then having to have her kids at the dinner table, and them very actively part of the evening needing to be entertained 2 young kids. Then it happened again. She sent out events for a dinner party in the evening with adults only on the invitation. Then, when we got there, she had set up all these kids' games everywhere. She arranged the night around everyone kind of playing with her kids, and I could tell everyone felt awkward because people just wanted to have an adult night talking. But she had promised the kids that everyone would participate in the games they had set up and asked everyone if they wouldn't mind playing with the kids. I know that several people who attended the last event were very bothered by having to do this. People were whispering on the side about how they had to pay a babysitter for the night and would have rather bring their kid along, and the kids could have just played games together if it's a family event. We barely ever pay a sitter, so I was kind of confused about why I had to spend my very limited babysitter funds on a night that I didn't even get to talk much with other adults because the kids were for sure the center of the evening. She even stopped everyone to gather around to look at the kids' recent art projects and tell stories and sing. Is this normal in other circles? What would you do if this was your friend? If I do say something, how would you explain this so that the person isn't mad or feels like you just don't like their kid? She was mad because everyone left early and she had catered the event, but I think people didn't want to stay and preferred to just go back to their kids because they felt a little disrespected by the way things went. People are saying they don't want to hang out with her anymore. AITA what to do. Update. Hi, everyone. I never expected so many people would have been interested in this situation, but I think it helps me feel vindicated that the situation was just as strange as I had perceived it to be. I wanted to wait for the kids to get back into school so we could discuss it in person. And luckily, I didn't even have to bring it up because someone else did bring it up to her, and she was eager to tell me that people were mad and she didn't know what the problem is with what she did. I was able to get through to her, I'll call her Katie in this post, and also understand her perspective not agree, with which I'll try to explain here the best I can. I cannot remember every detail of the conversation, but can paraphrase all the key parts. She had been upset because one of our friends, Molly, was taking care of her toddler, while Katie's kid kept trying to show her something. Katie noticed this and felt bad that her daughter just wants to share things with people she thinks of as her family aunts. We are just friends, but the kids call each other aunts and each other's kids cousins, so she wanted to build a stronger relationship between her kids and her close friends. She thought that us spending time with her kids away from our kids would be the way for us to show her kids better attention. This is especially important to her because she is an only child, her parents are dead. Her husband is an only child and his parents are dead. Her children have no biological family. She is worried about what will happen to them if she died, etc. Her mom died when she was a teenager, and she feels anxious about her health. She doesn't feel that other people's kids need this same type of bond with her because our kids have biological aunts, uncles, and cousins. She thinks they should be able to go spend time with their biological family and assumed that we were all sending our kids to our family and not paying a babysitter. She has no understanding of what it's actually like and romanticizes it. She was shocked to find that my siblings don't just drop their lives to babysit my kid. People who have siblings still pay babysitters and did for her parties. She feels that she paid for all the food and wine, and that alone should cover the expense of the babysitter, even if we did pay one. She knows that paying a sitter plus dinner would still cost more since she catered everything from a very expensive place, and we should have just been happy to get free food and drink, and if playing some kids game is the price for that, it's not a bad price. Essentially, she argued at first that if someone pays for everything, they can decide, and if we want a different type of gathering, we can foot the bill and throw that gathering. Now, how I handled this? That last note did eventually change to a more understanding perspective as I explained more and more about how even though she is technically right, she cannot maintain strong friendships with this mindset. You cannot provide meals for people with strings attached and deception involved. We didn't know until we got there and expect us to love it. She can do whatever she likes, but people can also end a friendship if they like. So she is free to do it, but not free from the consequences of it. I also was very clear to her that if her goal is to get stronger bonds for her kids, the way to do that is to love and bond with our kids and include them. That part seemed to be totally unexpected to her. I had to explain that people will be so upset by the fact that she isn't including their kids in kid events or isn't accepting that a parent needs to take care of their own kid first before focusing on hers that they won't even want to be part of her family because that isn't what a family is. My sister doesn't expect me to leave my kid behind and be only with my nephews. My sister would never tell me to not bring my daughter to a family event because she loves my daughter and that makes me love her and my nephews even more. I had to explain all this. Lastly, she is rich and did grow up rich, and as the only child she admits that she struggles to see things from other perspectives or to consider others' feelings, and she has to make a conscious attempt to really see outside of her own wants and needs. She said she even talks about this in therapy, and that's why she goes out of her way to do nice things for us. I put some examples of her acts of kindness in the original post, because that's her way of trying to actively be a generous and caring person. She did cry as expected, especially when she was talking about her kids not having any family and her mom and dad dying, and I'm very glad I did not mention it at the parties like everyone suggested, because I would have never wanted her to do that in front of people. It goes deep and she needs therapy to continue working on it. Overall, she did come around to the realization that she needs to alter her way of thinking about it and do things differently if she wants to achieve what she claims. She continued to reiterate how much her kids love me and how much she does love my kid too. She said she wants to do things the right way. She just is frustrated because what makes sense to her doesn't make sense to other people. But she accepts that it's her who will need to fix her way of thinking. A lot of crying and some arguing, but overall, it does appear that we are still friends. We hugged, and she said she is going to do something nice for everyone and their kids. If anyone still has questions about specific things said, I can try to answer in comments. Appreciate everyone's help. I felt much better going into it knowing that I was not wrong for standing my ground on this. Next story. Am I the butthole for sending a strongly worded private message to an individual that uses our macarons for her own online baking business? I24F started this small online baking business almost 3 years ago. I'm currently pursuing an advanced degree and have given all the rights to my older sister 27F. We're officially registered as a bakery in our town. I am responsible for updating the monthly calendars and editing photos that are being posted on our Insta and FB. I'm in charge of the PR, so I have access to both accounts. I noticed that we had a regular customer who frequently orders our French macarons. No big deal. Then I got a little sus when she started asking for specific colors while sending cake inspos. When I did a little digging, lo and behold, she has her own online cake business too. She was also using our macarons on her cakes, repeatedly. At first, I was like, this isn't new. I asked someone else to properly credit us, and we got tagged repeatedly for the macarons we made. It was so simple, so I messaged the said customer and asked the same thing. The customer agreed. Well, I just discovered that what this girl did was literally tag us in a single photo. We don't pop up at all on the caption. No mention of us or our name alongside the macarons that we made. We can't even share it. It was pretty obvious that she didn't want us to have any association with her cakes. TBH, my sister's macarons were the reason her cakes look well made. This is probably no big deal for you guys out there, but this is a small town and only my sister and another local bake shop makes them. They're pretty difficult to master. I got upset as hell when she recently posted a photo of her latest menu featuring our macarons. It literally says 6 PCS macarons on her cakes. That's the quantity that we sell. I saw red and immediately typed this message. Hi, ma'am. We saw your posted photos and I think it's a bit unfair to advertise that you include 6 PCS macarons on her cakes, but nowhere did it say that we bake them for you, albeit unknowingly, and without our permission we had to do our own digging. Those are our shop macarons. You are willingly deceiving your customers by purposely omitting that another small local business produces these high-quality baked products for your cakes. See first photo = her menu. If you're going to continue using our French macarons for your products permanently, it is only right that you place our name alongside the macarons each time you use them. For example, 6 PCS macarons by our shop. For example, see second photo = a customer baker who featured our name plus product on her post. A good baker knows how to properly credit the local businesses that she employs. It's a small thing but very thoughtful nonetheless. I hope you will do the same for your future transactions with us. My sister thought I was being rude, but I told her that I was just being stern. Her point was that our product is no longer ours once she puts it into her cake. I told her that it's different when it comes to baked goods. She's literally taking credit for her sis' hard work. So, am I the butthole? Edit. Forgot to say that every time we get credited on our products, they get thanked plus shared on our page for exposure. It's how we support other local businesses. It's common courtesy. Second edit, we make macaron cakes too. One of our main selling points is the fact that we make custom cakes which highlight our high-quality macarons. To those people making an argument that the macarons = ingredient, it's not. Macarons are a finished product. It is not equal to flour, sugar, or any raw material. We're not Oreos or insert big-name brands here. We're just a small business. Update. Hi guys. It's been a few months since I last posted. I didn't expect that my original story would get some attention. I noticed that some were asking for an update, so this will be short and sweet like my sister's macaron, maybe. I just want to thank everyone for their honest opinions and suggestions. I let my sister read the entire thread as well. She realized how crappy it was that her hard work was getting passed off as the baker's efforts, especially when it took her 2-3 years to master the macarons. To this day, her macarons are one of her best sellers, plus she's the only known macaron baker in the city, so she's fully aware of the true value of her hard work. My sister and I actually considered some of your ideas' opinions on the matter, but thankfully, the baker I mentioned before resolved things herself. She apologized to my sister for not mentioning our business. It took a couple of months, but I'm happy to say that she finally credited our business as the makers of the macarons. She even pinned the post on her business page where it clearly states that the macarons on her macaron cakes were made by user brand. She continues to be our customer to this day. That's it basically. Thanks again. Next story. My 33F husband 36M may have cheated on me with my dead best friend and had an affair baby. Throw away for safety. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute cluster F, and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till after 3 a.m., party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone raped him. But if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually rape him, and this was his trauma response. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part. But in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. TLDR, husband maybe has an affair baby. He claims he was raped by my dead best friend. Update. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend raped him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days, we talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she raped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me, it's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and effed my husband, or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave, you're right though, and as of a few minutes ago I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss, but today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy, to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend raped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps, and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Next story. Am I the butthole for telling my fiancé there will be no wedding if she keeps insisting I invite my parents? So some backstory. My dad left the family and went no contact when I 35 was 4. My mom remarried and had 2 kids with my stepdad. My stepdad never treated me poorly but always made clear that I was Dale fake name to him. He was not my dad. My mom never tried to fix the relationship and honestly loved her new family and always saw me as a burden. That's what I thought, at least until it was confirmed after my freshman year of college when my mom asked me not to come home anymore. I blocked her after that phone call and have had no contact with her or my stepdad and half-brother since then. I do still speak to my half-sister 25F at her insistence, but that's my only contact. It took me a long time to deal with basically being kicked out of my family. I grew to be pretty independent and thought I'd live alone until I met my fiancé 28F 4 years ago. We have had a great relationship and her family opened up and invited me in with open arms. She comes from a pretty typical suburban family and they are great. Over the years I've told her about my issues with my family. She has met my sister and she never pushed for more until we started planning the wedding. When we started talking about who we would invite, I talked about friends from college and coworkers, and she kept saying I should invite my parents. At first I thought she was just trying to gauge if I wanted to. I said I would not be inviting my parents. She said okay, but then brought it up again the next day. I calmly explained how much they hurt me, how growing up feeling you were unwanted and then having it confirmed at 19 really stunted my mental health. That over the years I have realized it's their problem, and if they ever want to solve it, then they can initiate, but I am in contact with my sister, and it is clear they are happy insisting I don't exist. It sucks, but it's their problem that they have thrust onto me. I can't be the one to solve it. I thought it had ended, but she has brought it up 2 more times. The last one was last night. We were about to start the save the dates and she said, "Are you sure you don't want to invite you parents? I feel like I might just invite them on my side." And I snapped. I told her we should probably just throw the invitations away because if you can't respect what I've been through, then I don't want to marry you. I then went to our bedroom and fumed for a while. She came in to try to talk to me and I walked out, grabbed my keys and left. I came back around 11 p.m. after hanging with friends and slept on the couch. She left for work without a word to me and I don't know where we stand. Her behavior is unacceptable, but I feel I may have gone too far. What do you all think? Am I the butthole? Update. I'm very overwhelmed by the response. So many thoughtful responses. Thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. I thought I would give an update. My fiancé normally gets home around 5:30 p.m. So after I was done working, I work from home. I waited for her to show up. Got very worried when it was 6 and she still wasn't home, but around 6:15 she shows up with my sister, which was a big surprise. While my sister and I connect every Thursday, we live 45 minutes away from each other, so her popping by is not normal. Both of them looked very anxious, so I was very confused. I asked them what was going on and my sister just bursts into tears and saying she's sorry. After like 5 minutes of her losing her crap, she starts talking about the family. So apparently when she told my mom and Dale that I got engaged, it started a rift between them. Not because they cared about me, but about how my half-brother, which is 27, is still living at home, single with no steady job. If you're thinking, wow, they kicked you out at 19, but let him stay there past when he could rent a car. Don't worry, I said it out loud. My mom apparently wants to do the same to my half-brother, but Dale won't let her. So they are currently separated, with my mom living family and refusing to come back until my half-brother is out of the house. For some reason that defies all logic and reason, my sister thinks getting an invite to my wedding will bring the family together, since it was my engagement that caused the rift. At this, I blew up a bit. I told her that my engagement had nothing to do with it, that their crappy parenting and poor relationship skills caused it, and don't put that crap on me. She cried even harder, and this time I was not going to console her. My fiancé is just sitting there the whole time, so while my sister is trying to get herself together, I question my fiancé about this. She also tears up a bit, but tells me my sister was telling her about how I always bring up the family on our Thursday, and that deep down I wanted to repair the relationship. I asked how she could believe that when I was very clear that I was no contact with my family and had never mentioned wanting to be in contact. I told her that I tell her everything and would never hold back something like this without talking to her. She's always been my sounding board. When I switched jobs last year, we talked about it every night, and her advice mattered more than anyone else. She apologized and then wanted to show me her phone, specifically the messages between her and my sister. At this point, my sister perks up and asks her not to show the phone conversation. But my fiancé tells her she's trying to save her relationship. My sister has just been straight up lying about our Thursday conversations, saying how I was always talking about reconciling, how I would never admit it, but I'm partially at fault too, how I really want to see them all again. Every time I would tell my fiancé no, she would text my sister, and my sister would talk about how I just couldn't be open because I was embarrassed. Just completely false. I would be perfectly happy never seeing any of them again. I can't believe my sister still sees them. At this, I tell my half-sister to leave and that Thursdays are cancelled. My sister puts up a little bit of a fight, but I ignore her until she leaves. She keeps saying sorry over and over again, but honestly, I'm done with her. I've blocked her and will be no contact with her for the time being. A complete betrayal of my feelings and relationships. As for my fiancé and I am still very upset. She went behind my back with my sister. Never asked me about it. Let my sister manipulate her and honestly hurt me. I told her I love her, but my trust is broken. We've agreed to go to couples therapy and see if we can repair the relationship. I hope we can, but I'd say it's a toss-up for me. She's got a lot of work to do. Update 2. A lot has happened. I'm just going to try and spill it in order for you all. So after my sister left, I told my fiancé I loved her, but I didn't trust her currently. That I felt she took my sister's side instead of mine. So I continued to sleep on the couch for a couple of nights. She was walking on eggshells around me and I hated it, but I also just wasn't ready to forgive her. Then Friday night, after I hung out with friends, I came home and crashed on the couch. We had had an innocuous conversation, but she did ask me to come to bed, and I told her I just wasn't ready. I woke up to pee at like 3 a.m. and she was sleeping on the floor next to me. I don't know why exactly, but it touched me deeply and I cried a little bit. It meant so much to know that she wanted to be near me even when I was being unloving. It really turned the tide. I woke up a few hours later and she was making me breakfast. A surprise, as Saturday is usually my big breakfast making day. We sat down to eat and she was keeping the conversation light, still on eggshells. But I decided to tell her a story from my childhood. I told her how Dale used to make breakfast for the family, but never included me. I was older, so I slept in, and when I got up, there was rarely any breakfast left, and if there was, it was in the fridge and no one would eat with me. I told her how much Saturday brunch with us meant to me and how I hadn't really ever talked about it, and that wasn't fair to her. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. She apologized again, but I told her I didn't need it. that I forgave her, and while I still want to do couples therapy because I think it'll help me express my family issues with her in a healthy way, I'm ready to send out the save the dates. I then asked her to massage my back because the couch was a nightmare to sleep on, and she knew I was serious. I don't love people touching me, except my fiancé, and I had really not allowed it since the original incident. I know most of you did not want me to forgive my fiancé, but I love her, and she loves me. She made a huge mistake, but she's never experienced anything like what I went through. And she showed remorse. As for my sister, my mom reached out via a phone number that I didn't recognize and told me I should forgive my sister. I told her to screw off, and she just confirmed my sister really had never had a relationship with me at all, because if she knew me, she would know that contact with my mom would only make the situation worse. I then blocked the number. This happened Thursday evening. She tried to come by Sunday, but my fiancé and I were out. She left a note apologizing and saying she did not ask mom to contact me and she's sorry she did that. My fiancé wants nothing to do with my sister anymore, but left the decision up to me. I told her that she was my family, so if she didn't want her there, she wouldn't be there. A little jab for sure, but she took it well and said she didn't want her there. We have been getting back to normal. It will still take time, and I think I may try individual therapy because as I was thinking about all the incidents, I'm not so sure the family situation is worse than even I have acknowledged, and it might be time to really deal with it. The save the dates were sent out yesterday, and everything is still on. I'm not sure I'll update again, but thank you all for letting me process and vent. Next story. My boyfriend wants to buy a boat, and I'm $40,000 in debt. Been together almost 10 years. I own the house we live in. Due to unemployment, he stopped contributing to the bills over 5 years ago. For the past 3 years, he's been back to work. He paid off all his debt, and his only bills are his car insurance and our cell phone bill. I've asked him a dozen times to start contributing, and it always turns into a fight. He tells me if I need money, I should just ask for it. But I don't believe that's a good substitute for giving me a specific amount I can rely on every month for the bills. I also do 95% of the grocery household shopping. I've made bad decisions and buried myself in debt trying to live a lifestyle that I should be able to afford if I wasn't supporting him. He wants to buy a boat. I'm about to take a $9,000 per year pay cut at work. He knows how much debt I have. Decided I'm breaking up with him, selling the house to pay my bills, and walking away happy with probably $100,000 in my pocket, literally life-changing money. Am I overreacting by ending a 10-year committed relationship without talking to him about it one more time and giving him a chance to make it right? Edit. Wow, this post blew up way beyond what I expected. Hate to say this, but if you don't have anything different to say from the 1,000 plus other comments here, please don't waste your time. There's no way I'm going to be able to read all these. And to the people saying absolutely awful things to me, guess we all know what kind of person you are. And to the person that for nudes, I'm flattered but no. Second edit, I really appreciate the kind words and well-meaning advice I've been getting. I'm gonna try really hard to read all of them, but there's like 4,000 right now. To answer some of the more common questions. I already rent out a room to someone. I didn't mention it because it didn't seem relevant. I've raised his rent starting next month. He's also had a really sweet deal for a few years. I have a very good job. I work for USPS. Problem is, USPS is going broke and they've realized they can pay a part-timer $20 an hour to do what they pay me almost $40. I don't know how bad it'll be yet, but it's looking like $911K per year cut. I'm trying to get ahead of it before it hits. The benefits are great and I don't have a degree, so there's no real way for me to get into a higher paying job. I am considering Instacart/DoorDash once it does hit. Just doesn't seem fair that I have to work 2 jobs while he sat on his butt for 2 years. And listen, I get it. Selling is a bad idea. A house is an investment. But I don't really see any other way of getting out from under this debt. I don't want the hassle of trying to rent the whole thing out to someone and pay for an apartment myself. I don't want to have to maintain it. It's way too big for me. And I don't even think I want to stay in this state. Sell now, pay off debt, put money away and earn interest on it. Then in a year or so, once I've got my head straight, hopefully move somewhere warmer. Third edit, one more thing. He already has a boat. A cheap boat, if there is such a thing. He wants a nice new boat so he doesn't have to keep putting money into the ones he's got. Update. My original post blew up way bigger than I ever expected. I was definitely overwhelmed by all of your responses, and I truly appreciate how many people care about a random internet stranger. I've considered posting an update many times since but wanted to wait until it all played out. But I've had people reaching out recently, so I decided this was a good time. I spent a decent amount of time setting things up for myself behind the scenes. I had a safety plan for myself and my cats in case he got angry. I spent a long time putting a plan together for what I would do after selling my house. I broke up with him in early June. It was one of the most emotionally difficult things I've ever done. We talked for hours over multiple days about what went wrong. He didn't get angry, just sad. I was really sad too, and I still am, but we're both on the same page now and we agree that it's the best thing for both of us. He moved out right away and has been slowly moving his stuff out. Took me about 2 months to get my house ready for sale, but once it was listed, I accepted a very good offer within a week. Closing is 3 weeks from now. I decided to take this opportunity to completely change my life. I'm moving across the country. I already have a place and a job lined up, and I'm really excited for my future. I'm making about as much money as I expected, paying off all my debt, and investing a large amount of what's left. I'm moving to a lower cost of living area and my expenses will be considerably less than they have been. And the job I have lined up will pay about the same as I make now, so I'll be in really good shape. I've already signed a lease for a sweet apartment. Maybe I'll look into buying again in the future. But for now, I'm just looking forward to a fresh start and the opportunity to make my life exactly what I want it to be. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel James Stories.